Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode number 11 of the Vultures Row podcast. I'm your host, Joey Bonsanti. Joined with me, as always, Tony Vegas, Pat Winters. We have the full draft done with. Pat, how you feel?
Pretty good. I'm glad we didn't record the other day because I got really pissed off about it, and then I kind of calmed down, and now I'm pissed off again. Um, yeah, I'm ready to finally talk about it.
Tony, you're shaking your head.
I don't know why he could possibly be so mad, other than maybe one fourth round receiver. Which, I mean, I don't know how many of those guys hit anyway. We'll get into it, but I'm feeling pretty good, man. I think we made a lot of good picks. I think there's going to be some contributors. Are they all slam dunks? No, but not everybody's Howie Roseman. So let's get into it.
As Pat said, we had discussed possibly recording a couple days ago, but really happy we had a couple days to digest the draft, kind of think about some of the players, see some of the reactions, and not get on a hot mic on Saturday night. So here we are, recording Monday. We're gonna do draft grades. We're gonna go through each player, and just at the end, kind of give our overall grade and just talk draft. So with that being said, I know we talked about our day one pick, but we're gonna revisit after a little bit of time. We'll start with Pat, go to Tony, come to me. We'll give a grade, kind of give our take on it, and then we'll move on to the next player, pick by pick. So we'll start with you, Pat.
Sure. Again, Armand Membu, I'll give that an A because I think that was a great safe pick. He's going to slide right into right tackle. I think we really dived into him a lot the other day, so I don't want to ramble too much about him. But given who was on the board, and I didn't really. I thought they would go Lyman over Warren, so I'm glad that they did. It was a safe, smart pick, and I'm really, really excited about the offensive line. The fact that they have Olu and Membu locked down on both tackle spots for the foreseeable future, and then obviously it's a really good young line. So very excited about that. So I'll give that an A.
Yeah, A plus, A, whatever you want to give it. The player other people in the fan base wanted went 7 picks later and was passed up on by a team that also needed a tight end. I don't think he was the second best tight end in the class, but Olu Membu, bookend tackles. It fills a need. He's young, full of potential. We talked about him a bunch. I mean, we don't need to go over this anymore. He's going to be very good, and I'm very excited about the pick.
I'm going to give it an A. Plug and play right tackle. The line's complete. It feels great.
We're going to slowly start disagreeing more and more. I feel like as this goes on.
Yes. So Pat, with our second selection.
I didn't really think about a grade, but I'll go through it and then I'll come with my grade. So I think the Jets showed really good patience of how the board fell to them here. Regarding Mason Taylor, he's a smooth, reliable, steady pass catcher. He's not even 21 years old yet, and he has all the potential to be like a really quality 3-down tight end, which with all like the Tyler Warren hype, you could tell this was what the team was looking for. They're looking for that complete tight end rather than maybe like a big receiver, because I think if they were going for the big receiver route, they would have taken Elijah Arroyo, who I thought they were going to take because I thought they really needed more of a receiving threat, outside of Garrett Wilson on this team. I don't think Mason Taylor is ever going to be a devastating downfield threat for them. That's going to keep defensive coordinators up at night. But I really like the Heath Miller comparison. I mean, if he becomes like half of Heath Miller, that would be a great success. I think the best word for him is just reliable. He had 55 targets last year, 1 drop. While they're not eye-popping stats, he's the most decorated tight end in LSU history. Really smooth route runner against zone coverage. He could play in line. He could play in the slot. He's not the best inline blocker yet, but again, he has room to grow, and he can also grow into that as he grows into his body because, again, he's only 20 years old. I would say, just like Membu, this is a really safe pick. He will grow into a really reliable option for the Jets. He'll be a true 3-down player. And at 42, you really needed that. So whether they were going to go tight end, offensive tackle, or offensive tackle, tight end, which they ultimately wound up doing, I think this was the best combination that they could have ended up with than going Warren and then, who would have ever been on the board at 42 for them, like Ariante Ursi or something like that. So I'm going to give this, given the situation, I'll give it a B plus because I personally would have taken Arroyo in this situation. I think that they need more of a receiving threat on this team, and that doesn't mean that Mason Taylor won't be that, but I can't knock the pick. I think he was on a lot of people's boards tight end 3. He was even being talked about going in the first round at some point. So I think it was good value, and it's a pick that you really can't be mad at. So B plus.
I think I have a little bit more. You said all the points. I mean, he's super smooth, and I think the key part to this is that he is 20 years old, and I mean, he's the best. He was the best tight end in LSU history at 18, 19, 20 years old, and there's so much room to grow with Mason Taylor. Not to mention, Pat, you're good friends with Jason Taylor, right? Yeah.
Boy.
um,
My boy.
So I just think that he's far from a finished product, but even the product that we drafted is a fine player, a really, really good, reliable third down, receiving threat. He plays the whole position. And I just think he has so much room to grow. I mean, we don't know what this guy's going to be. And at the very least, his floor is, a good third down option, a guy that can, probably block a little bit. He just strengthens the line of scrimmage for this offense, which I feel like was a big focal point of what they were trying to do. And you're exactly right, man. I mean, the two players, we needed a right tackle and a tight end, and I don't think you could draw it up much better than Mason Taylor and Armand Membu at 7 and 42. So to come away with those two guys, you really fortify that front line on the offense. They're starting to build that identity of, hey, we want to win up front. And there was the tight end room was a borderline joke. And this really, can he come in and be the second option in the offense as a 20-year-old? Probably not, but maybe down the line he can. And at the very least, he's going to be a good player within the offense. And really, I mean, we've picked a lot worse players at 42. We haven't seen him play yet, but I find it, I just can't imagine him being like this bust. He comes from his family's football royalty, 2 Hall of Famers, Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor. He's a good kid. He works hard, reliable hands. I really, really like it, and I'm gonna give it an A minus.
Pat, I want to get into my pick, but I saw Pat's face kind of.
Wait, no, I was just saying you're talking about the second who's, you can't see him coming in and being the second option, but like, who the fuck is the second option on this team? I mean, it's an abomination what they're doing at receiver, and I'll get into that later, but, Brees is obviously like, a receiving threat, but yeah, he might come in and be the second by default as we stand right now. He might be the default second option from a, receipt pass catching standpoint. Like, there's a very good chance, which is not a knock on him, but more so just knock on like, what a fucking joke the offense from a receiving standpoint looks like right now. But
I went into day 2 saying if we could come away with Mason Taylor or Jaden Higgins, I'd be really, really happy. So we got
Higgins was not dropping. Everybody wanted him apparently, huh?
Yeah, he went within the first 2 picks.
And then 2 teams traded out after he got picked, if you notice.
Yeah, that that's upsetting because he was that was, I guess, more of a pipe dream. But yeah, we can all dream. Mason Taylor's a really good option, really good receiving threat, like we've said. I think he really does need a little work on the blocking side of things. But ultimately, I told myself the other day, and I think we just talked about this, but would not be surprised if he ended up being the second wide receiver on this team, just based on how much Justin Fields loves tight ends and how little there is on the receiving corps on this team. So I gave this a B+. I really do like the move. You really had no other option. Like, him or Arroyo was essentially the option there, unless you really wanted to reach on someone.
Arroyo had injury concerns. That's what scared me off of him. I think this was the safer option. If they were going for like the boomer bust, Arroyo's the pick, but I think this was the right choice out of those two. He was my tight end 3. I mean, if you're going to take one in the second and he was there, this was the guy, I think. Just there's no concerns with him.
That's kind of like the trend of the draft outside of a couple picks that we'll get into, though. But like they opted for more of the safe, reliable, good instincts, high IQ.
It sounds like good players.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Like, over the home run throw. And I guess at 42, that makes sense, right? Because I think Arroyo is way more a higher upside player than Taylor, but I don't know what to say who's going to be a better player per se. We have no idea how this Jets regime is going to work out and stuff like that. But I think Mason Taylor from a 3-down perspective, and when you take everything into account, is probably the more safe, reliable pick than Arroyo. So, is it what I would have done? No. But again, not like, it's not like they had a massive reach here or they took, Harold Fannin over these guys or something like that. So, it's fine.
I also, and you mentioned it a little bit, Tony, but I do love the bloodline within the NFL. I think
I love that.
That carries weight. I really do.
It does.
So that's just another
And
small point.
And a great guy in Jason Taylor, like, Hall of Fame player.
Doesn't like the Jets though, right?
He's got probably a little bit more now, but yeah, I think a guy that I know, and he's a great dude. So I think
Switch it up here.
Mission.
Tony, kick us off with the next pick.
Okay, I'm glad I got first here. I have some feelings on this one. I think so they wanted Kyle Williams. I mean, that was clearly what they wanted to do in the third round, and he ended up going 69th to the Patriots. Great number. The fact that he wasn't there, I feel like really threw a wrench in this draft, and I think they bounced back very nicely. A.Z. Thomas was sitting there in the third round. He was great value. He's a big, lanky corner. The only knock on this kid is he's kind of slow. He ran a 4.56, 4.57. Did he run a 4.6, 4.7? Like, no, that would be like, you can't play corner in the NFL. He ran a little below average for an NFL corner. But that being said, man, again, he's 20. Like, he's 20 years old. He was one of the very few bright spots on that Florida State defense. And you kind of see a trend with like what they're looking for in their corners. I feel like they want big, strong outside like corners on the outside, and then you have Michael Carter in the slot, but they definitely have a type for what they're looking to do on the outside. And I think that's kind of like what Steve Wilks is trying to accomplish in his corners. They want to press man, and they want sticky guys in coverage, and that's exactly what A.Z. Thomas is. Another player with room to grow, and I think he can make an impact in year one. First of all, you're a tweaked ankle away, either Sauce or Stevens, from him seeing the field, and he's, I would argue, a really solid backup corner in his rookie year. And want to admit, if a team has a big slot receiver that they want to throw him on, that's great. It gives you kind of flexibility to move Stevens around. He has flexibility to play safety. So, let's just say Stevens absolutely sucks. His first 4 games at outside corner opposite of Sauce. This kid can come in. Maybe you flex Stevens to safety. It just gives you like flexibility within the defense, especially the secondary. I know Steve Wilks likes to move guys around, and I think another player we picked later in the draft kind of offers similar flexibility. You can kind of play him all around the, in the box or whatever. But I see what they're trying to do. This was good value. He was supposed to be like a mid-second rounder, and he was sitting there at 73. So they pulled the trigger. And, at the end of the day, our coach is a former Pro Bowl corner. So if there's anybody that can coach this kid up, I feel like Aaron Glenn's the guy to do that. And I'm not really too sure he needs to, like, he's not this raw guy that needs all this, coaching, but this is the right staff for him. This is the right defense for him. I give this, just because Kyle Williams wasn't there. If they traded up for him, that would have been awesome. But I'm going to give it a B+. Great value, just not like the biggest need, but still, I mean, I'm totally cool with this. I thought they had a great day 1 and day 2.
You want to go next, Pat?
Yeah, I'm going to knock them while also saying it's a good pick, because, like, if you, in the third round at the 73rd pick, are getting fucking rattled that a player is not there, then that's just, like...
Yeah, but they didn't get rattled. This was a good pick.
No, I'm just saying, it sounds like, from what everybody's saying, that, like, they were just, like, oh, Kyle Williams, like, it shouldn't, it shouldn't deter you that much. But anyway, that being said, I'm going to give it a B, because, again, it's great value. Consensus top 50 player probably on most people's boards, and we got him at 73. Fits the bill completely for what Aaron Glenn is looking for, which is big physical corner that's going to just jam you at the line. I don't love corner in round 3 because, again, I look to see who's there. Jalen Noel is still there, who, again, after Kyle Williams got effectively stolen from us, that's who I was hoping for at 73. But I sense that this player was obviously higher on their board, where they just simply couldn't pass him up. And look, they're going to pay Sauce. Stevens is on a really short-term contract, and who knows where he will truly wind up in the secondary if it's a corner or safety, but if he even pans out. This is all the makings of the future cornerback
Yep.
too, next to Sauce, that doesn't have to get thrown into the wolves right away. And again, like you said, after losing DJ Reed and more importantly in this situation, losing Brandon Eccles, they really kind of needed that backup outside rotational corner that's going to have to start a game here and there, be thrown into situations during in the season. So it was probably a little bit more of a need than we going into the draft, we're pressing about. We just have 3 corners now in Sauce, him, and Stevens that just don't create turnovers. So I'm hoping Aaron Glenn has some fucking magical drill that he's going to teach these guys to figure it out. But nonetheless, I have to put faith in Aaron Glenn at drafting a corner in the top set with a top 75 pick. So this is a guy that probably if they took it 42, like, would you have been mad that we took corner at 42? Yes, but you probably wouldn't have been like mad from a value standpoint. So to get him in the 73, it's a good pick. Like I can't really be mad about it. I think he will wind up being a quality starter for the team.
Did you give a grade? I didn't.
I'm giving it a B. I'm giving it a B.
Cool. I think my biggest takeaway with this pick was I was happy that obviously Kyle Williams was probably the guy that we're going to take, but I'm happy. I actually feel better that they didn't take a wide receiver because to me that shows me that their guy was gone and they weren't going to reach on a guy that they thought maybe on their board was lower. So they took a guy that I saw mocked to go top of the second round, really within the 10 first picks of that round, and get him at that 73 pick, I think is an amazing value pick. Like Tony said, I love his size. And I really do think that when your coach was a former cornerback in the league that played at a really high level, he could coach him up and hopefully he could be a starter down the line. And like Pat said, a need where you're like, okay, we have Michael Carter and Sauce and a kind of a question mark in Brandon Stevens right now. And a lot of people said, well, why pay Brandon Stevens? Why would we take a corner this early? Blah, 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 blah. Well, like you said, if he stinks in the first 4 games, or what if he gets injured, then you're screwed because you don't have like that Brandon Eccles that we've had. This could be like that until he maybe progresses into a starting role. I give this one a B. I sat on it for a while, going from B- to B to B+. I think B is a perfect place to keep it, especially just because it's great value. It's really great value.
They were one injury away from like Quantez Stinger starting, right?
Yeah.
He should move to safety, by the way.
Right? So, when you look back in hindsight, it probably was more of a need than we were anticipating or, projected it to be.
All right, so we all go to sleep. Great. We're feeling good. We wake up the next day. Tony helps move some couches and stuff. That's fun. And then we go have some pizza and watch the draft. And we turn it on, and with the first pick in the 4th round, Pat, who did the Jets take?
Took fucking Arian Smith. I mean, you want me to get into it, or
You go first here.
You go first,
This is
buddy.
good.
all right, like this pick shouldn't bother me as much as it has, like for multiple days now, but it has, right? And I'll just read, top of the 4th round, Saturday around noon, right when the draft starts. You're super excited because if you're like most fans like us, like this is probably the last pick where you might know a prospect without having to look them up, right? It's kind of like the last like really exciting pick before you get into the nitty gritty, right? Potentially a starter, you just never know, right? And the way the board fell, I was really pumped because like Alec Allen Minor, like Jalen Royals was there. Ty Robinson, D tackle from Nebraska, was there. Lathan Ransom was there, the safety from Ohio State. Like guys that I had in my PFF mocks, sometimes even at like fucking 42 were there, right? And what do? They go take Arian fucking Smith, right? I knew of Arian Smith because I watched like a decent amount of SEC games this year, and literally every game I just happened to tune into Georgia, this guy dropped the ball. Like he just was dropping passes all the time. And the Jets truly amaze me because they're the only team that can somehow draft a wide receiver and get worse at the position at the same time. Like this guy flat out can't play football, like period. He's just fast and that's it. And they took him at the 110th pick where he was pretty much all across the board, a consensus, like between 250th and 300th ranked player, right? It's not like he was ranked like 150 or 175 or something like that. This guy was a 7th round prospect, borderline undrafted free agent. There's absolutely nothing to like about this pick. I don't care if Gruden likes him. Gruden drafted fucking machine gun Damon Arnett, and like within round 1, he drafted Clelin Ferrell in the top 5. Okay, so save the fucking Gruden argument. And if you gotta want to talk about this guy's speed, like and how he's gonna, command a defender or whatever, he's not gonna see the field. So like it's not gonna happen, right? So this just stinks of like our Darius Stewart over Chris Godwin all over again. And it's just so disappointing because while it's a mild stretch to say a fourth rounder could be a starter, like who was on the board and with who was on the board and the needs they had at D tackle and just simply better, like way better wide receiver prospects on the board. Like they took a guy who's like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I don't think he's going to make the roster. Like, I just don't even think he's going to make the team. I think he brings absolutely nothing to the table. So, argue me if you want on it, but
So I'm gonna assume you're giving him like a B-.
it's a F. It's like an F fucking minus. Like I hate. It's just I really. This is like Jalen Saunders like not making the team.
Jalen Saunders.
Like no, like it's gonna be something like this is like an it's like 12 fucking pick. Like this guy won't be on the team, and it's nothing against him. Like I'm sure I heard he's a hard worker, cool dude. Like that's great. Like awesome. I'm really glad you're a high character guy. Like thanks, but that's not what we're fucking. That's not. I don't really care. I don't know what else to say about the guy.
Wow.
So
I'm not gonna say.
I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he's like. I hope he's a great receiver. Like I root for the Jets, right? If he proves me wrong, great. But he's not going to. So
I'm not gonna sit here and like try to talk you into. This was the worst pick of the draft, I think, with who was available.
Worst pick in the draft, like any team.
Maybe. I mean, like Dylan Gabriel in the third was pretty bad. I just they see something in this guy. This is like going to be a very interesting experiment with this regime because if this guy comes in and he's like what Pat says he is and he just can't play, they cut him and whatever, that's going to be very interesting because they brought this guy in on a top 30 visit. You kind of knew they were going to draft him, just not here, right? I mean, this is the type of swing you take in like the 6th round, not the fourth, not the top of the 4th where Royals is sitting there or the Stanford guy. There were better prospects there. When I saw wide receiver in Georgia, I'm like, all right, sick. Like, who the hell is this? And the first thing, I mean, you read about the guy is he can't catch the ball. And it's like, fuck. Like, they did it again. It seemed like they took a shitty fucking middle round receiver. It's just going to be very interesting to see how this plays out because they clearly see something in him. I think he's going to make the team. I at very least, he's going to be a gunner. I mean, the guy has electrifying speed. And
it's like Franklin from The Replacements.
That's a great movie. That was my favorite character in that movie. But this is my only defense of the pick. When you get to the 4th round, let's just act like these other guys weren't on the board, okay? Because Royals was definitely better. I knew that for a fact. You draft for like traits, and this guy is elite at something. It's just that he's very, very bad at arguably the most important part of the position, which is the most concerning part. But also, man, I like tried to watch as much on him as possible to see like what they saw. His Senior Bowl, he looks pretty good. I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, people say he can't run routes. I disagree. His acceleration, his speed, everything. Like he's a freak athlete.
He can't run routes.
I think he can. I disagree. I don't think he's as bad of a route runner as he's being made out to be. And wanna what? If you throw him the ball and he's behind the entire defense, he might catch it. So they kind of have to respect him. I mean, like, they're not just going to not cover the guy, So he definitely
he won't see the field for that situation to happen.
With this receiver room, maybe he will. No, who knows?
Even in this abomination of a receiver room, that's how bad this guy is.
We're gonna see because they had the right idea. They had the slowest receiving core in the NFL. If you take him out of the equation, these guys are all fucking really slow. Lazard's slow.
Didn't compare him to Jameson Williams too?
Yes, yeah, he did.
Yeah, that's insane. That is insane.
He has a similar trait. He's just as fast as Jameson Williams.
Crazy. That is the wildest. It's just the wildest theory I've ever heard.
No. Listen, we all watch football. This guy's not Jameson Williams, but he's elite at something. They think they can maybe teach him how to catch the football, and they look like geniuses if they can. If they can't, then okay, you burned a 4th round pick. We fucking took Captain Morgan in the 4th, under Joe Douglas, which was an abomination. Like, sometimes you miss on these picks. This one was just a real head scratcher. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to just watch as a fan and be like, how bad is this guy going to be, or is he going to shut us all up? I
One
don't
more
think
thing about him too, like in the teaching the catch thing, he's like 23 years old.
I know
and
he's not going to learn how to catch.
If you can't catch at this point, like you're not catching the ball, like period. And if the best thing, and I'm like everybody's been saying this about him, in general, if like your best quality that they talk about is he's gonna be a great gunner, that means he's a shit receiver, period. Like there's just no other way to put it. And like I feel bad bashing on a guy that's on the team that I've never met, or like I'm not like personally attacking this dude. It's just like so bad. Like they had a 0 awareness rating on day 3. Like they had no awareness of what was like. It's clear they had no awareness of what was going on. They were just like, I like this guy. Like we need this guy. Like where it's like they had no idea where he was gonna go. It's like Muji making these phone calls and he's just like a robot. Like he must have been like monotoned or something when this pick was. I don't even know.
The one thing I want to say, and they didn't like there was an turnover in like the area scouting department. I just want to throw that out there. We're gonna get that after the draft, so probably like now is when you're gonna see these area scouts get out of here. That's where all the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round picks are made for. Like that's where they come from. So,
well, that's
you'd like to see these guys get out.
Because like, I get that again they came in January. They're working on with guys they haven't hired yet, and a short period of time, not a full scouting season for them. But like, it's super easy to read a fucking mock draft and take Membu and Mason Taylor, right? And take a top 50, look at your board and be like, this guy was ranked 50th and he's here at 73. Like, we can take that, But when you're taking a guy, and they did this multiple times in the draft, they're taking a guy that's just not even in the stratosphere of consensus rankings. Like, don't tell me you see something that nobody else does. Like, that's just malpractice. Like it's irresponsible.
If the Jets took Arian Smith in the 6th or 7th round, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now, probably.
No, so I'd give it a C+.
Okay, dart throw, fast guy. Like we'd be like whatever. You know what I mean? It's like that's where I get mad because the 4th round, especially at the top, like I'm not. I'd have to go back and look and see like how many 4th round picks actually hit. I'm sure it's very low, but just the way the board felt, like Alec Ayominor, like go back and watch that guy. He cooked Travis Hunter. Like he cooked him when he covered him, and so when Travis was covering him, like I think he could have been a quality starting receiver in this wide receiver room this year. And watch Jalen Royals, because he's on the Chiefs, become a really good receiver now, and it's going to be the Godwin or Darius thing all over again.
Well, I just want to read this stat to kind of put a cherry on top. Arian Smith's drop rate during the 24 college football season was 18%. He led the SEC and the Power 4 with 10 drops, marking the first time an SEC wide receiver had double-digit drops since 2016. So that was that.
That's a game.
Just a couple more points for me here. I hate the can't teach speed thing. That pisses me off. That doesn't justify a 4th round pick. And I just wrote down when your biggest concern is catching. Doesn't make me feel so good about a 4th round wide receiver. I give it an F.
It's a 4th round pick, guys.
Big fat. Well, I got to grade each player.
No, I know.
Let's move on, anyways. And I sort of passed.
And like
practice is insane.
He's also if he's a gunner, he's 170 pounds. He's not even going to be able to be. He's going to get jammed.
He's a wolf.
He's going to get jammed at the gunner position. He's not going to make it downfield.
But we're all rooting for him. I don't think that's out of the question. But
I hope this podcast lives in infamy as like the Arian Smith. Like we were wrong. I really do. But
Tony, take it away with the next pick, please.
Okay, Malachi Moore. This was more like our speed, right? He was probably like the 150th best player. Where did we take him? 142, 145. Experienced guy. He played 5 years at Alabama, I believe. He's fiery. Like he I don't know if you guys saw that clip of him absolutely throwing a tantrum when they lost to Vanderbilt. Throwing his mouth guard, kicking the ball, all this shit. I mean, dude, I like guys that hate to lose, and this guy seems like one of those guys. It's a position of need. When we picked AZ Thomas, a lot of people were like, oh, maybe Stevens is going to corner. I don't know. I don't think that's the case. I think this guy actually could potentially be a starter. Like his rookie year, he played a lot of college ball. He's pretty well rounded. He can lay the lumber, decent ball skills. I think this is just like a solid run of the mill. Like this is your average 4th-round pick. Like you pick a guy that's a leader in the locker room at a powerhouse program. You kind of know what you're getting. At the very least, he's going to be a solid backup corner. Hopefully, this puts the Tony Adams experiment, to bed. I don't think Tony Adams is a starting safety. I'd much rather just give this kid a shot at the starting gig. So I just think this is like a solid pick, man. I mean, the guy hates to lose. Solid player, solid value. Like he's not a steal, but he's a little on the older side. There's just not a lot of concerns in his game. I just think he's going to be a solid, NFL safety. That's it. Maybe he won't be a starter. Maybe he'll just be a backup. That's fine for the middle of the 4th round. That's totally cool with me. Position of need. Good program. SEC guy. I'm with it. So I'm going to give this just a B. It didn't knock my socks off, but the more I watch him, the more I kind of like about him. And it's like a solid pick. Solid is the word of the day for me, apparently.
Yeah, I'm also giving it a B. I think they came back to reality here just a half hour later.
For one pick on day 3.
Sense knocked back into them for 3 minutes on day 3. I don't know what happened to them on day 3, whatever they were taking that day, but I would love some of that shit. But this is the only day 3 pick that has some actual potential. Again, Malachi Moore is just a better football player than, an athletic tester, I guess you would call it, which to a degree, like I said earlier, you can see Aaron Glenn wants these guys with good character, high football IQ, good instincts over freakish traits outside of that bum, Aaron Smith. But taking Mason Taylor over Arroyo kind of thing, similar to that, right? And taking AZ, who didn't run the best 40, but his tape shows he's a ball player, he's a good ball player, right? So same here with Moore. He played every year, Bama, 2-time captain, very reliable, played a premium position for, he played that star position. Makes up for his athletic shortcomings with just being in the right positions and good instincts. So again, with Aaron Glenn in the secondary, I'm going to believe in him until I'm proved otherwise. And I really do think with where the safety room is at currently, he has a really good opportunity to get playing time early and prove himself. And again, I think if he's just the type of guy that's in the right positions and at the right time, he made plays at Bama. So, and he played at high competition. So, I think he was a consensus 150th ranked player, and that's kind of right around where we got him. So I can't be mad at that. So I think it's a B.
95 overall in NCAA.
I give it a yeah, that is true.
Brick loves it. He's bricked up over it.
I think they overall had pretty good Madden rating. I mean,
they did. All of them did.
Yeah. But again, I'm giving it a B more so because you took somebody in the secondary already in the 3rd round, and Stevens, there's flexibility there. At this point, they had to have taken a fucking D tackle, and they just didn't. And that's where I get very agitated about it. So it's not the player per se, but
I have this at a B minus. I'm kind of contradicting myself because I did write this grade down a few days ago after the whole draft had concluded. But I think out of all the picks, I could see Mason Taylor and Membu being obviously starters, and I really see Malachi Moore being that 3rd guy who we take out of this draft who starts for us this year. Maybe not right away. I think maybe a little bit before the halfway mark he starts for us. And I see him being an impact player. I always loved taking SEC guys. I loved how, within the first 2 picks we had SEC guys. I'm all for that. And like Tony said, leadership ability, played at a high caliber level with Alabama. And I really do think he could develop this year into a really nice player. So I give him a B minus. I think I'd probably change it to a B. The only knock I really had on him, he's a little undersized, but I don't really think that's going to affect him too much. I think he's going to round out nicely at that safety position. I wanted to start with this next one. All right. This is where it kind of gets a little sticky for me. The next pick was Francisco Mauigoa.
Kiko.
His nickname is Kiko for, whatever reason. I'm going to kind of just read some stuff I've written down here. He's a 3-year starter. He led Miami's in tackle in 2023. He had a very, very high missed tackle rate. Very inconsistent tackler, very inconsistent in the middle of the field. I see him maybe turning into a two-down guy. A lot of what I've seen and what I've read, people are saying he's just an automatic special teamer. I don't like that. I think at best, because I was looking at the roster, I think he could be like a Zaire Barnes replacement.
Yeah.
I think he could be like that. Yeah, exactly. So I don't really... at this point, like I'd rather have just taken like a D tackle, like you had said, Pat, and I'll kind of touch on that more at the end of the podcast when we're kind of giving the overall grades. I gave this a C minus. Like I'm almost at a D with this, and I think that's being a little bit generous to tell you the truth. I don't really have much more to add on it. I just really don't like the pick. I just hope I'm wrong, and I just don't see the value in taking a linebacker like this at this point in the draft. But that's just me. You guys can fight for the next turn.
I agree. I just hate it. It's just like that's just the I can't like. I'm not a Kiko, whatever the hell is that? Like, what is
Maui
it?
Goa.
Maui Goa. I'm not an expert on this guy, but it's just such Zaire Barnes vibes, man. It's the same pick, I feel like. I mean, just like a pretty big middle linebacker. He just doesn't seem like he's ever going to get any playing time on the defensive side of the ball. It's gross. I'm going to give it a D. I hated it. Take Isaiah Bond or something, dude. Like, I get it. Maybe he has legal issues. Take somebody that like. I hated this pick. I might have hated this one more than Arian Smith. I'm dead serious. Again, it's a 5th rounder. I don't really like in the grand scheme of things. I don't really care that much. It's a 5th rounder. If he's a special teamer, whatever, man. But it's just I don't like the player. I don't. Everything I watched him, I didn't like it.
Yeah, I think he's a bum.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I think he's a bum. I don't think it's really worth talking about. I'll go into the fact that, like, again, this was a guy that was not even ranked on a lot of boards, and he went in the 5th round. And if you want some context, just like I liked it at this point because, again, I'm not going to break this guy's tape down, right? I'm not going to sit here and I'm not a scout, but I look at the board and I see guys that they pass on that I know of, right? Like Torrey Horton from Colorado State, a wide receiver, right? We should have took another receiver after we took that scrub in the 4th round.
Horn from Colorado.
JC Horn, yeah, Jim Horn Jr., whatever. Right, yeah, he was there. I'm sorry, I said JC Horn. Denzel Burke, corner from Ohio State. Like, that guy was, like, a year or two ago, like, going to be a 1st-round pick. And, whatever happened to him. But, like, if a guy's a 1st-round pick, like, 2 years ago and falls that far, like, there's got to be some
he's
sort
better
of...
He's better than Kiko Maliogo.
From a dart throw perspective, instead of taking, like, again, this is just the Jets, in my opinion, these guys having no fucking awareness of, like, where everybody else is ranking these players. And that's what bothers me more than anything. And again, I wasn't a proponent for taking a quarterback at this point, but Will Howard was there, Kyle McCord was there, Quinn Ewers was there. Like, that's a slot where, like, okay, I could get behind taking quarterback in the 6th round.
There? Shedeur was
No, Shore wasn't there at that point. But again, like, I would have taken Will Howard or any of those guys. Jalen Reed was there. That was a guy that we were talking about in the 4th round, potentially, right? In leading up to it. So, again, like, it's just a guy's a bum. Period. Like, and
that's
he might another guy that might not make the team. Like,
I hope he does. I hope he does great. And,
I'm not trying to bash these guys, like, personally. Like, I just
I think
it's not gonna make. I just don't think these guys might not make the team.
I think he makes the team in some sort of special teams role. I guess the other argument you could say is he's a little bit of a bigger linebacker. I'd say Sherwood and Quincy are a little bit more on the smaller side.
Save it, man.
LJ Mickens is also on the board.
I'm just I don't know, giving my final 2 cents. Anyways, in the other pick that we had, the last pick of the draft in round 6, the Jets trade up. They select Tyler Barron, another Miami kid. Again, not sure why we waited to the last pick in the draft to address any part of the defensive line. I gave this a C, I guess, C minus. I don't know.
I agree.
F.
They traded off 2026 5th, and then they got back a 2026 6th for the trade up. You're trading up for this guy? I hate it.
This guy, again, like, it's not even a D tackle. This guy is a developmental pass rusher bum with one move, and he had like 5 sacks this year, and 3 against, like, 3 of them came against Florida A&M.
These 2 Miami their defense was horrific, and we're taking 2 of the starters on that defense, and you trade up for one of them. This is where it gets a little concerning. Like, I'm not out on Darren Muji by any means, just because he made a few questionable picks, and we don't even know. Maybe they're good
on day 3.
Day 3, like, I'm not like bashing Darren Muji, but I'm saying okay, a little red flag here because you trade up for a guy that you didn't need to trade up for, and maybe someone would have taken it. Oh, big whoop! Someone took fucking Barron ahead of you. Like,
I bet
oh,
you.
boo-hoo.
I bet you we probably could have taken Arian Smith with that pick and then signed Tyler Barron as a
Right,
undrafted free
exactly.
agent.
This guy fits in right in with the undrafted guys that we have on the roster, like Braden McGregor and Watts, and there's one more guy. Like he might not make the team. It's not going to make the team. Like those guys were better than him. Like the guys that they signed in free agency last year are better than this guy, and they have a year under their belt. So like, take a D tackle. Like take a fucking quarterback. That's going to be, I mean. Take another receiver. Like take Ollie. Like I'm just gonna again. I like to look at who is available. Right, Ollie Gordon. Like again, running back. We didn't take one obviously, but like Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State, he was pretty good.
He was
right?
good.
He's available, right? Like the quarterbacks I talked about are available. Jalen Reed was available. Riley Leonard's available. Like it's ridiculous.
And I guess we just hope that maybe one of these day 3 picks can be something.
I don't
think
think at the end of the day, these guys aren't like, again, the biggest thing from this is, and we're rookies in the podcasting and media world for this aspect, is like, you can't get too worked up over day 3 because at the end of the day, like these guys, aren't going to be the heart and soul of the team. And if one of them hits, it's a success. So
I'm like having a fucking panic attack right now. But I was looking at, I can't even get this out. I was looking at the way my camera's all messed up, Howie Roseman drafts, and every single player that he took was graded higher than where he took them on the consensus, like Daniel Jeremiah board, Connor Rogers board, whoever's freaking draft board. And it's like, I feel like it's not that hard. Like,
no, I agree with you. Like,
it's hard
if they
to
were
find,
that
like,
unprepared, if they were that unprepared, like, just do they not have a guy in there that they could just say, like, hey, this is what Mel Kiper has, this is what Daniel Jeremiah has, this is what Connor Rogers has, this is what Matt Miller has, like, and put an Excel sheet together and just make the average board out of that, and just like it feels like they just had no idea what was going on
day 3. On day 3, yeah. And
but again, we go back to before, like, yeah, it's easy to like pick. It's like Joe Douglas, right? Everyone said he killed that first draft. Like, yeah, it was easy to take Sauce, Garrett, Brees, and Jermaine Johnson, right? The only pick he hit on outside of that was Michael Carter at some point, right? Other than that, he drafted like shit. So it's easy to hit on these early picks, and we'll see what happens. But, I mean, man, like day 3, like I don't think I've ever been that pissed off about a day 3. Maybe it's because I've had to analyze it more than I ever have in the past, but, just terrible.
I'm going to kick it off with final overall grades here. I gave this draft as a whole a C+. I think that I kind of made this point already. I think that if you could take, whether that be, it's a mix of Taylor, Membu, Thomas, and Moore, whichever 3, if you could pull 3 quality starters out of those 3, I'd walk away saying that I'm pretty happy. I don't think outside of the Arian Smith pick, there was any pick where I was truly like, what the hell? Like, I remember at least Arian Smith is a wide receiver. At least we didn't take a James Morgan. Like that, I was like, what the actual hell are we doing? Outside of that, I'm not really gonna harp over round 6 linebackers and edges. I'm just not. I'm not the type of person to do that. I look at the top half of the draft and can we take at least 3 to 4 players? Honestly, I see 4 players that could have an impact on this team here.
Yes,
I really do. And if you were to tell me that walking away at the end of the draft, I'd be really happy. You might say, okay, you say that, but you give him a C+. Yeah, I gave him a C+ because I didn't really like the day 3 affects it all for me. They didn't touch D tackle. That's a major need that I feel like, okay, you're happy with the group we have. Well, I didn't really see it unless the way that you're going to coach and the way you're going to scheme is going to fix that. The D line right now outside of Quinnen, again, they brought in some veteran guys, some veteran presence, but outside of the few veterans that they brought in, like Nadi and Cowart, like I don't see what their plan is on that front. I do feel a little bit better in the secondary.
Taylor to really take a step, which
That's
very well could happen.
Maybe they like him. I'm not really sure. That's kind of my overall consensus on it. Love the first round draft pick, love the second round draft pick, and like a couple more picks, but I'd end it at a C+. How about you, Tony? Or Pat? Or Tony?
I would give it a B-. I thought day 1 and 2 were very strong, and I think at the end of the day, you're going to get your starting right tackle, you're going to get your starting tight end, and you're going to get your long-term cornerback too after you pay Sauce in day 1 and 2. You get a rotational safety, potentially a starter, who knows, in Malachi Moore, and I didn't like the other 3 picks. That's really it. I mean, if what I just said ends up playing out, and that's how they are as NFL players, for a first-time head coach and GM, that's a great draft, right? We don't know if all of them are going to, be long-term starters. But if they get 4 actual helpful, useful players, and like Membu's a really good right tackle, it's a really good draft. The reason I'm giving it a B minus is just because the process in day 3 was just a little concerning to me, where they were taking players that were just consensus that like lower on the board when they were taking them. That's it. And the receiver, picking Arian Smith, the receiver, how they're kind of analyzing those guys, it's just concerning a little bit. I hate those picks. But at the end of the day, I think they got 4 solid players. 1 or 2 could be really, really good. And it's a B minus draft until proven otherwise. If Membu busts, then this is a fucking disaster. But I don't think he's gonna bust. I think Mason Taylor is pretty safe. I think AC Thomas is a pretty safe pick, and Malachi Moore, experienced guy. Like, you think he's probably gonna be a rotational safety as a rookie. So B minus. I'm fine with it. It's just it left a sour taste in my mouth with those Miami guys and picking Arian Smith over Jalen Royals and Stanford dude.
Pat, what's your grade? I'm really curious to hear this, actually.
Ironically, I'm higher than you guys. I'm giving it a B because I think that the picks that mattered, they didn't fuck up, and they had a really good. They took the safe route, which again, first time GM head coach with no scouting department that they hired on short notice. I think that they hit the picks that they needed to hit. I just think it's like not taking a D tackle. And the multiple opportunities they had and what they did with wide receiver and Arian Smith as a whole is just like fucking malpractice to me. And I get that Rome wasn't built in a day, but I just think that how they went about it is just extremely concerning to me. And there's their process, to your point. But I'm just not going to let that ruin the fact that they had a great first 2 days. And that's ultimately where it matters most. I think that you're going to see, like you guys said, potentially 3, conservatively, again, because it would be crazy to say that 4 of them are going to hit, right? So let's say they get 2 to 3 starters from this draft, 2 quality starters. The rest of them are not going to be on the roster within 2 years, and I bet some of them don't even make the roster this season. So, that's where I stand on it. They just left a very concerning taste in my mouth about. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because, again, we haven't seen these players play. They're professionals. We're not, But just how their view versus the consensus of everything else on the later picks outside of, like, where, generally speaking, we all have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. They had no idea what was happening, on past, like, the 100th pick, which is to me like extremely concerning. And I just don't know what the fuck their plan is at wide receiver and D tackle right now. I mean, like, I get D tackle, like, it's an abomination what they did. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous that in like the deepest D tackle class you didn't take 1. And it was they signed 3 rotational bumps. Let's call it like it is, right? And Leonard Taylor, I think, has potential. And I think he will wind up being good and he'll make some sort of leap. But again, like, it's a glaring hole and they're going to get destroyed. And you have, if you really look at the D-line, you have Will McDonald, who's not a quality run stuffer. Jermaine Johnson, like, they're putting a lot of stock into him because coming off a torn Achilles, which is just not good practice. And you have Quinnen, who's just going to get double teamed again or triple teamed again. And they're going to get their fucking throats run down. Like, it's just, that's what's going to happen there. And then, at receiver, I think I said it before the draft that I think that they are going to go the veteran route, so it remains to be seen. But if they're going to roll in with this squad next year, it's irresponsible and it's just unprofessional. It's bad. So, yeah, that's where I say I'm not feeling very thrilled about the team right now.
Malpractice. I
It
just love
is.
that.
It's
I hear you.
practice.
It's
Like
funny.
if you're gonna walk in,
Abomination.
and Josh Reynolds is fine, but if you're really gonna walk in next year and tell me that this is the receiver room and not make a move, it'd be crazy. It'd be
Yeah,
crazy.
I agree. Like there needs to be a veteran added, and I think that a lot of people are going to discount that and say, "Well, they didn't come away with a really good wide receiver." I'd argue that the way that they're going to use Mason Taylor, he could be like. I honestly would not be surprised if he was the second receiving option in the offense. I know it's really
And
early.
then you're relying on a 20-year-old who was not ever a what's the word? Like a big option in his offense, right?
he
He
wasn't the number
was
one.
never a focal point in his own offense in his career to date to be one. Like
In the NFL.
in the NFL in his first year at 20 years old.
I
Like
get it. I really do. I really do get it. Do you have any final points, Tony? I was gonna kind
I-
of wrap it up.
I do. I think, and I think this draft proved it. This is going to be their evaluation year. I think they're going to take a step back this year. Max, their winning is 7 or 8 games, right? If they win 8, it's like, oh wow, like Aaron Glenn might be a really good coach. I think this is just going to be an evaluation year. It pisses me off a little bit they didn't take like a defensive tackle because I don't like if you're doing this, if you're doing an evaluation year where you're trying to see what you have in the young players, see who can stick, who you want to get rid of, then I don't want Derek Nottie playing next to Quinnen Williams because he's not going to be on the team in 2026. So that pissed me off, but I think they're going to want to see what Leonard Taylor has next to Quinnen Williams. They want to see if they want to pay Jermaine Johnson long term. Will McDonald, I think, is going to be a player here. I think they're going to pay Sauce. I think they're going to try to run the shit out of the football, like we've been saying all off season. I think this is what their identity is. You have a Steve Wilkes defense, which I think is going to be okay. I don't think they're going to get absolutely smacked around. And you're going to have a really strong run offense behind a very good young offensive line. I like that. That's the strength of the team. That's a very right point. And it's going to be an evaluation year. You don't know what the hell Justin Fields is. You're going to find out. So I just think that they're doing this like this is kind of a freebie. And, I don't know if they're going to go and sign Amari Cooper. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they might make like a one veteran addition at receiver, but they're not going to go and sign like Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen or any of those guys. I just maybe there's one more body, but it's kind of a full room if you're keeping Corley and Arian Smith and all these so-called bums, as Pat likes to call them. So I just think they're going to see what they have and roll from there. And I think this is the number one thing I want to make a point of. They need to fire the remaining staff in the scouting department. I hate people losing their jobs, but get the hell out of town, please. Get out. We never were able to draft in the middle rounds. Get out now. So
I hate people losing their jobs. Yet get the hell out.
I like winning football too. So
I'm with you. We haven't seen it in a while. So we asked Twitter on Vultures Row Twitter, which is at NYJ_Vultures Row. Go follow that. A lot of people through 300 votes said it was a B to B plus draft. So a lot of people agree with us,
B
which
plus,
is nice. Yeah, well, a B to B plus. So I would say it's more in that B range, which I think a lot of people agree with us with.
Yeah.
Go follow us on TikTok. I'm trying to get that up and running. Go follow us on Twitter, like I just said. Go follow us on Patreon, Vultures Row. I know this is a long one. We've kept you here for 54 minutes, but we had to. We had to digest this draft.
The whole draft.
Absolutely. So we do appreciate you guys listening. We will be back in some capacity next week talking about God knows what now since the draft is over.
Justin Fields. Maybe we should talk about our quarterback.
We will do we had a guest for Justin Fields that we're going to dive into. We have the schedule release coming up on May 14th. So we have some stuff to get into over the next few weeks. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you guys next week. Peace.